So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world, and welcome to Radio Works World. My name is Gill Barham. I am the Miracle Molecule host, and today I am having a light-hearted conversation all the way with a lady from Canada. She's not actually Canadian, but you'll find out a bit more about that. But I'd like to welcome the lovely Moira Bush. It's good afternoon to you, isn't it?
It is. Good afternoon and good evening.
Yes, it's my evening and your afternoon. So, Moira, I'm absolutely delighted that you're joining us. Thank you very much for taking time out of your day, because I know you're an exceptionally busy lady and a very talented lady as well. So I have been aware of Moira for about 4 years, I think, but we finally connected fairly recently through a mutual friend of ours and actually one of your students, Chrisula Sirigu. And I think we were part of one of her online programs. I think we contributed to that, didn't we?
Yes, it was a wonderful call. It was nice to connect with you at that call as well. It was a very interesting one happening. I think it was at a new moon event.
Yeah, I think it was. Yes. So welcome to everybody that's joining us. If you've got any comments or questions, then sometimes I flash those up on the screen. But before we get started with my light-hearted conversation, I'm going to invite Moira, just in case you don't know her, to tell everybody what it is that she does, what she's passionate about, what her business is all about.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me here, Jo. I'm very passionate about color therapy, and not in terms of it being a kind of a topical therapy lotion that you'd put on, in terms of psychology and spiritual enlightenment and raising awareness. And I've been doing it for about 15 years, and I work with a system from South Africa called Color Mirrors. So all the work that I do, that I have done all over the world, has been based on the teachings of this specific color system. So I'm very, very passionate about color and using color to help people become more self-aware. Because it's only when you're self-aware that you can actually make, real changes to your life.
So do you have one of your color mirror bottles there by any chance?
No, because I decided I better be up here upstairs. So all the bottles are downstairs in the office and in the clinic room because of the internet connection. You and I have been having weird internet stuff happening today, so apologies. Well, handy.
Well, what will happen is invite you onto my other show called The Vitality Show, if you like, and maybe you could share with us a little bit about all of the work that you do with color mirrors. And those color bottles, because they are beautiful. I think a lot of people think that, color, the work that you do is all about, what you wear and as you say, what you put on your skin, but it's completely different to that. So it'd be great to have you on that show and feature you and what you do on there.
That'd be wonderful. Thank you.
We'll definitely do that. Okay, but we're not going to talk about that anymore because we're here to talk about Moira, actually. We'll talk about her, Moira. So the idea of this show, just to tell you, we have a show in the UK that's the longest running BBC 4 radio program called Desert Islandists. It's been on for centuries. It's one of my favorite shows. It's on a Sunday morning. And what they do is the format of the show has been exactly the same for all those years. And they put a person who is either a celebrity or a scientist or an athlete or from any walk of life, and they put them in a fictitious kind of island, and they say, well, we're going to send you off on a desert island and we're going to make you choose some records and some things that you want to take with you. And throughout the show, basically, they weave records through or music through the show and ask questions around those music choices that bring out the real person behind whatever it is that they do. And it's fascinating, Moira, because you learn so many things about the actual person, and sometimes we make a judgment about people, don't we, from the way that they look or what they do or what they say, and you get the most extraordinary things where you've got a science boffin who you find out is a world crochet champion or something. It's just the most brilliant show. It's the most brilliant show. I absolutely love it. So I wanted to do the same for people that I'm connected with, people that are significant to me or have a significance in the world, and to give you a platform to be able to show us a little bit about you. So I've devised some questions that are on a sort of similar vein, really, but not really, which I hope you'll enjoy and which will give us a little bit of an insight into you.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
Okay. So are you ready?
Okay.
Here we go. Oh, just to tell everybody, Moira has no idea what I'm going to ask her. I think she knows one or two questions, but she really doesn't know. All right, so here's your first scenario, Moira. Now, you're in a very nice hotel. I don't care where it is. You can choose where it is. It's an extremely plush hotel. You get into the elevator or lift on the bottom floor of this hotel to go up to their executive dining suite, basically, because you're hungry because it's lunchtime. And one other person gets in the lift with you. And as you go up to your lovely fine dining experience, the lift or the elevator breaks down between two floors. Okay. Now, there is some good news. There's some good news here. One is that you've got a window. It's got glass so that you're not going to get claustrophobic. So that's good. And the other thing is that you get to choose who that other person is that got into the lift with you. So of all the people in the world, dead or alive, who would you like to spend 2 or 3 hours with, because you're going to be in there a while? Who would you love to have to yourself for 2 or 3 hours?
With Oprah, I would love to be locked in a space and spend a few hours just being in the presence of that woman. And I think that the conversation that would kickstart us is that we're both born on the same day. We have the same birthday. It would be a good conversation.
When is that?
29 January.
29th of January, okay.
Yeah. I think that would be an amazing experience.
And I think you're about the third person that said that, by the way, so you're not alone.
Well, she's you know, she's an extraordinary woman. She came from so much pain and she's overcome so much trauma in her life. And she's had to be this open book to the world and reveal every vulnerability that she, you know, that it makes up her life. And I wonder if there's still something else to discover about her. So I think that's the lure of saying, let me be stuck for 3 hours in a small space with her and wonder what else there is that the world doesn't know about.
Yeah, that would be really interesting. And actually, if when you have skills like you do and you're used to working with people, is that very often you will be able to bring those things out because people don't know what they don't know, do they?
That's it. I think that's really interesting, yeah.
Yeah, really interesting. Okay, so here's the thing. Oprah's hungry as well. So I'm going to have to magic you up some food in this lift and something to drink. So I am going to provide you with a lovely dining table and lovely cutlery and crockery and silverware. But I'm also going to magic you up some lovely food that you would like to share with Oprah. So what would you like to eat and drink in your 2 or 3 hours with Oprah?
Thai buffet would probably be my go-to meal, where you have little Thai bites and or Eastern, you know, kind of fusion food. Variety though, I like to eat small pieces and a variety. Drinks, I'm a Prosecco girl. I like Prosecco, but I know that Oprah likes the Moscow Mule. So I have no idea what that is, but I believe it's a cocktail. So I think that might be an opportunity to discover what a Moscow Mule is.
That's a brilliant thing. Okay, Moscow Mule. We're going to have to get the recipe for that and write it in the book now. Will you remind me of that? Remind me of that, because that's an essential part. We can just add to this. This is just so exciting. All right, so Moscow Mule and Thai food is going to be consumed with Oprah Winfrey. Fabulous. Okay, right now, next question. I know that you live in Canada now, but you are South African. Yes. So I'd like to just get a bit of an insight as to key points in your life. And so I'd like, if you would, to share with us what Moira was doing at 18? Were you called Moira Bush then? Where were you living? What was happening for you?
No, I wasn't called Moira Bush, and I was Moira Cup, and I was married. When I was 18, I had my baby by then, and he was just over a year old. And I was busy being a mum and discovering what it was like to be a very young mum. But also, I remember that it was a little bit of time of panic for me, because I got pregnant in high school, so I didn't finish high school. So I started going to night classes to try and complete some training, some of my education. But I'd also come to the attention of a fabulous woman in South Africa called Reva Foreman, and she started a cosmetic company at that time called Reva Cosmetics. And I started training with her, and little did I know, but that was my first venture into being an entrepreneur. Now, I didn't have a car. I didn't know how to drive. So I used to pile my little boy, my baby Michael, into his pram and go door to door selling cosmetics and teaching skincare. I got to know the most amazing women in my neighborhood. So it was a pretty cool time.
How interesting.
That was
say again?
That was in South Africa.
In South Africa. And were you listening to music at that time? Was there sort of what were you listening to in South Africa when you were 18?
I was very influenced by my father's taste in music, because my dad used to play the drums and he could play a bit of the trumpet. And I remember as a little girl, when the traveling circuses used to come, he used to go and help play in the bands. And I was always so starstruck. And he had a record collection, and they were all, of course, the 60s. It was the Beatles, it was the Bee Gees, and Mick Jagger, and Carole King. So I loved that music. That was what I grew up with. And my sister and I, we used to wear the records out, trying to write down all the words so we could sing along to the song. So that so when I was 18, it kind of came with me.
Oh, fabulous. That's really good. Of course, nowadays, life's so much easier. You can basically Google anything and, you'll get the words to anything straight away, won't you?
But I also loved all the big divas, the Bette Midlers and the Tina Turners. I love them.
Yeah, fabulous. Okay, so that was you at 18. So what were you doing at 35? What had happened by the time you got to 35?
Okay, so 35 was the last year that I spent in South Africa. It was the year that propelled me to kind of leave South Africa and move to England, and then I lived in England for 15 years. That year was quite traumatic. In one way, it was a highlight of my life, because I'd come up with a project that had come to the attention of the government to help very, very 250 poor artists and crafters in South Africa to set up an Amazon-like website and sell their goods overseas. And I was so excited about the project, so it was a high. And later on that year, all the project funding got stolen. And I had spent all my money into getting that project, the research and the marketing and development of the products and all the traveling I did at the time, and of course all the website research. So in those days, the internet shopping idea was relatively new. And and so in that year I had that high, and I also was up for the South African Entrepreneur of the Year award. I came into the semi-finals. And then overnight, somebody stole the funds and I crashed. I lost absolutely everything. So it was an extraordinary year for me. So 35 is one I'll remember. But it was in England, and it was in England where I discovered the colour mirror system. So no regrets at all.
How was it? And you were in England for 15 years, did you say, or 12 years?
15 years, yeah. And then 2 years ago, I moved to Canada.
What precipitated the move to Canada?
Married a Canadian.
Oh, that'll do it.
That'll do it. I met about 8 years ago, exactly 8 years ago, I met Paul, my Canadian husband, and we were living in England pretty happily together, and he kept hinting that he wants to come home to Canada, and I was not too sure about it, because England was cold enough for this African girl. So, but he was very clever. He always brought me out here in the heat of summers so that I fell in love with Canada summers. So here I am, having amazing 33-degree weather today. Wonderful weather.
Well, I think you're very brave. Although I would love to come to Canada because I like skiing. So as long as I could do a bit of skiing, it would be super fine for me.
That is something I still have to try. I'm afraid. I think that I have feet that kind of do this duck thing, and I think to myself, how in the heck am I going to get the skis to go in and go downhill? So I've been a little wary of trying skis on, I have to say.
It keeps you young. I like going to France, but I do have a real it's on my bucket list to ski in America and to ski in Canada one day.
So, come anytime, girl. I know where the ski slopes are, but don't expect me to go down them with you.
Okay, you can just make me the hot toddy at the end of the day. That'd be fun. The glue vine.
Those Moscow mules, and you have them ready for you.
Yes, this is true. Okay, brilliant. So thank you for sharing that. So these are some quick fire questions now. So they're really kind of either or just some quick fire ones. So for you, which do you prefer, TV or radio?
Oh, TV. I've got square eyes.
Non-fiction or fiction?
I think fiction. I actually believe that non-fiction and fiction springs from the same well of creative thought. So, but preferably not. Yeah.
That's an interesting concept. We need to talk more about that. Maybe we can do that when we meet. Okay. Are you the oldest, middle, or youngest child?
I'm the oldest.
Oh, the oldest child. Okay. And at school, were you the goody two-shoes? Were you the naughty one? Were you the funny one, the class clown, or were you kind of always under the radar?
Oh, definitely under the radar. Yeah, I was not a socializer or or kind of made friends very easily. Yeah, I did keep into the background.
Yeah. Okay, and what would you say your best habit is?
My clients at this point are going to be laughing themselves silly because I'm total opposite to that right now.
Yeah, life's funny how it moves on, isn't it? Okay, and what would you say is your best habit?
My best habit? Probably to listen, because when people speak or they communicate, what they say and what they mean to be saying are often two different things. And I'm not interested in what actually comes out their mouth. I'm interested in reading their energy or the intention behind what they're saying or what they're really saying. I consider that a really good habit to have for life and business.
Yeah, it makes you very empathetic and very relatable, and makes you good at what you do, definitely. I would have thought that was an essential thing, actually, for anybody that is a heart-based business owner. The more you can tune into your intuitive skills, the better.
I think so, and it also lets people know that you care about them, that you're not taking them at face value. You know, that you're not just being another conversationalist person. It's not just someone they bump into the street and have an arbitrary, oh, the weather's nice today. You know, if they say to me the weather's nice today, I go, oh, what's going on in their life that they've got clouds, you know, clouding their view of their life at this point. So I need to look deeper, because otherwise I wouldn't feel I had a purpose, quite frankly. So it's really, it's a habit I have, is to listen to people that way. It's part of what I do with the mentoring. While my mentoring is an important part, is to really listen to what people say. Because what they say, what I'm hearing, are two different things.
Yes, and also, you know, I get the same thing where perhaps people come with a health issue and they live within that issue. So they'll come to me and they say, well, I have migraines, for example, or I have ME, and they're kind of identify with the symptom or the problem, but actually the symptom or the problem is not really what's going on underneath. Between what I do now and everything behind the symptom, and building health so that actually those symptoms just kind of go away. But so much of that is to do with the mindset of not identifying with that dis-ease or that disorder, if you like.
Taking ownership, because when the minute they go I have, then they take an ownership and it becomes their ruling force. And if you can get them to take ownership of I am healthy, I am abundant, then it gives them a different lifeboat to hang on to.
But it's a very new concept for most people, and you know, it takes a while in my experience, for people to trust you enough to let go and allow that to happen. It took me a long time to do it, because it just sounds all a bit woo-woo, doesn't it? And I know that there'll be people watching the calls back who go, oh, you know, this is woo-woo stuff again. But actually, when you start living it and when you start really trusting it and allowing it, it's amazing how things manifest. It's amazing how things show up. And you're taking down a path that you never thought possible.
And you know, I was looking at the book you've written, which I've just ordered a copy of, and because I haven't had the opportunity to read your book yet, and because I know where your biggest resistance is where your biggest potential is. And I know for a fact that I don't take care of my health as well as I should. So after we had our chat with Priscilla and you mentioned the book, and something said to me, you've got to get that book. And then I've been resisting for the last week or so since we've met to actually order the book, because, and the minute I do that, I know you have to get that book. There's a message there for you. Because where your biggest, when you resist information, when you resist the book, when you resist the course, you know that there's something there for you.
Yeah. Interesting stuff. Okay. So that was your best habit. What's your worst habit then?
Probably what I just told you, procrastinating. but I only do it for a little while, and now I get onto it very quickly, because if I feel the resistance, then I know I've got to get onto it quite quickly. So, but I do think my worst habit is I probably don't look after my health as well as I should. I don't exercise as much as I should.
Well, I think, you know, one of my big passions and my real focus and my kind of key area with people that I work with, it is people like you, because we are so busy either as heartfelt entrepreneurs or mums or wives or daughters or sisters or whatever, and we all, you know, everybody that I've spoken to, at some point or other, they will say in the call, I like helping people. I like helping people. I like helping people. It comes up all the time, because we wouldn't do what we do unless we liked helping people. But as you say, the very worst things that we do for ourselves, or the very thing that we do for ourselves that is the worst thing, is that we put ourselves last. I mean, women do this on the whole anyway, but it's particularly true of female entrepreneurs. And one of the big reasons for that is that we are so full up, and we kind of know a lot about it because we're bright, intelligent women. But it's two things. It's tweaking it and getting the actual real deal detail that relates to you and your body that makes the difference. But it's also finding easy ways to do it. Because if I was to say to you, I'd like you to go and shop every day organically, and I'd like you to eat, you know, prepare 3 meals a day, and I'd like you to do this, you'd go, well, I don't have time for that, Jill. You know, what, you know, you're joking. That's not going to happen. So my speciality is saying, okay, so this is what we need to achieve. These are the nutrients that we need in order to achieve it. And here's some really easy ways of doing it, so that you can get on with the rest of your life and you don't need to worry, because you're not fretting over, I'm not looking after myself, knowing that, you know, things are going to catch up with you in time.
And I think the step forward is, first of all, recognize you do have resistance to sorting out your bad habit. And secondly, when somebody like you turns up that waves a little book or a program or ideas, you've got to say yes and grab it and run with it, and know that that's going to be, you know, it's going to help you. Yeah. My husband and I have lately, in the last few months, we've made some radical changes to our health. And just because blood pressure has been a bit higher, weight is not being managed as well because we're older. And so we've been taking superfood supplements. We have one that's called New Gen that's absolutely phenomenal. It's actually available. It comes from the UK. And we've had delivery, 3 meals a day delivery from an organic company here called HelloFresh. They deliver you all your ingredients you need to make 3 meals.
Wow, brilliant.
And it's all organic, and there's no waste. It's all recyclable material. So we started making those shifts. and just doing it feels good, and your book's going to be the next step.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Well, you'll learn so much more, and my speciality is heart disease, so and high blood pressure. So you'll read all about there and what I do to reduce people's blood, because high blood pressure is the single most cause of heart disease in the Western world, and 1 in 2.5 are still 2.4 of us still die of heart disease, despite all of the interventions and science and all the drug therapy. It's still a global megatrend. So there has to be a way that we're all part of this amazing global experiment, which is where we're all basically living in these very stressful lives, overfed but undernourished, and there are ways that we need to overcome those stresses and strains of our 21st lifestyle that don't involve just lying in a darkened room, because that's not realistic. We want to be living the lives that we do, but we have to be able to counteract it. So I hope you enjoy it. Okay, fabulous. Now, so this next question is about you and your downtime. So what do you do to relax?
What do I do to relax?
Yeah.
Pretty boring stuff like domestic cleaning and cooking. I've not moved into getting help to clean the house and support me with those chores, and I kick the husband out of the kitchen every now and again. So for me, when I'm cooking or when I'm really immersing myself in a deep clean, it just relaxes me. I think one of the most therapeutic things I do is decluttering. I love every couple of weeks to delve into a cupboard or a drawer or a box that's put under the stairs or in the basement and just unpack and chuck out and go, 50% of this is going by the end of the day. I love that. It's very therapeutic.
Very therapeutic. It's interesting because I was working with a couple a few weeks ago, and we were decluttering their bodies, basically going in and resetting their gut flora and their microbiome, which is the key to good health. And at the same time, this lady said, Sue, she said, it's been really interesting. She said, because whilst I've been decluttering my body, I've been impelled to declutter my house at the same time. Yeah. And I also think it works the other way, that sometimes it's good for you to get rid of your own rubbish, whatever word you want to use, literally and psychologically. It's good therapy for you to do your own cleaning, because it's actually a process. It's just like the process in the body of detoxifying or decluttering or rebalancing. And I think that it allows you to connect with the corners of your house, because if somebody else is cleaning your house all of the time, effectively you really only can see bits of it, the bits that you spend the majority of your time in.
I'd like to think I'm going to get to that stage where somebody's going to have to come in and do it for me. But I do agree. I think your energy connecting with the different parts of your home it's important to stay in touch with it, because it's only when you're connected to it that you realize what is becoming frayed or what's becoming old or what you've lost an emotional connection to, that you can keep that decluttering and the movement energy in your house constantly doing it is important. It's actually it's an act. It's part of being prosperous and having a prosperous mindset and working positively with the law of attraction is making sure that your spaces are constantly revitalized and re-energized with different colors and different shapes and the furniture moving around.
Yeah, so I'm probably guilty of not doing that, because I have people who don't like change. Yeah. What do you mean you moved that there? And especially my children are all grown up, and when they come home, if I happen to have moved anything, World War III had started. That's where we always have the Christmas tree. But that's anyway, brilliant. Okay, so Moira, my next question is a bit of a funny one. So, do you have any nicknames, or have you ever had any nicknames or pet names?
At school, I had a science teacher. He used to call me Bushy. And when I was a young child, my Afrikaans family, my nephews, they were all older than me, and they used to call me Moiki, which is akin to being called a moth. So I wasn't very enamored with that name. And fortunately, as I got older, no one's attempted to give me a nickname.
Beware.
Any of my clients, friends watching this right now? No.
Oh dear, very funny. I'm a singer. So my real sort of first passion, I studied singing at university. I actually sang at Christina's wedding last week, by the way. I sang her a little song.
Yes, I saw the photos and the write-up. Wow.
Yeah, it was lovely. So I'm going to grab you when I'm up on stage, and I'm going to get you to come up and sing with me. So what would be your karaoke song if you were up on stage with me?
I've only ever sung one song in karaoke, and that was Bette Midler's The Rose.
Oh, The Rose.
But that might be a little bit low key. If it's at the time of the evening when you want to get things going, there is a song that I absolutely love, and that is the Black Eyed Peas, Pump It. I love that song. I could imagine us just jumping up and down and getting the energy in the room going. And I don't know how you are with music, but
that's cool with me. Is it called Bump It? Is it that one?
Yeah, Pump It.
Bump It. Okay, so that's the second Black Eyed Peas reference we've had today. So that's really interesting too.
Excellent.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Brilliant. Okay. So that's the end of our quickfire round. I've got another scenario for you now. Okay. So I probably ought to just explain a little bit. So 2 years ago, it is 2 years ago now because it's June. My husband and I went to America for a month, and we did 8 states, 3,300 miles. Traveled around the country, had a wonderful time. Went to a wedding in Yellowstone Park. It was a fabulous time, and we had a travel consultant who organised the flights for us. It was the first time I'd ever done it because I'm Mrs. Organised and I normally organise things. But she did all of it, and she organised all the hotels. So all we had to do was show up. And it was fabulous. We were together for 24 hours a day for a whole month. 2 hours one day when my husband went off into the desert on a Harley Davidson. And we didn't have a crossword between us for the whole month. And we've been together for 35 years. So I'd like to know if I did the same for you, if I organised a lovely holiday for you with no stress and no worries, who would you like to spend that you could have a whole month without a crossword?
It would be Paul, my husband, and my son Michael. The three of us travel, and we have travelled different countries and done different trips for periods of time. And we just love it. And there's never a crossword. We just seem to gel. We like the same things. I think it would be the three of us. And we actually have another one planned next year for South Africa. So, we love it. Yeah. Brilliant.
Okay, excellent. Well, I'm very pleased you said that. I'm sure Paul will be as well, and Michael for that matter. Okay.
She's pretty good. She'd have to be my backup, and that's Marion, my friend in America. She is an ex-travel agent, and she has organised us some amazing trips. So if we had to have somebody go with, it would probably be her.
Oh, right. That's lovely. Big shout out for Marion. Whoop, whoop, Marion. Okay. So we are turning all of these conversations into a book.
Okay.
And we've got a publisher for it ready. And this book is going around the world in 80 days, starting in October.
Wow.
Till December. So the Radio W.O.R.K.S world is going on tour, basically, and it's the Jules Verne book.
Yes.
Days. Half of that, so it's going to places like San Francisco and Tokyo and New York and on an island and all over the place. And at the same time, I'm also going to create a playlist of one song from each of the authors. And so what I'd like you to do is to tell me what song you would like to include in this playlist. And it's got to be a song that makes you feel light-hearted. Or tune, it doesn't have to be a song.
Okay. There's a song by Sarah McLachlan, which is it's in the arms of an angel, and I just have a special connection. song, and it was one of those weird things that happens to us. I was in South Africa on a color conference, and I was walking along a cliff by myself, and there was this female whale that was heavily pregnant. She was very close to the shore, and she was kind of doing this belly roll to massage her stomach. She was obviously in labor. And I was just thinking about how I wish my life was that easy, that it was just about rhythms and cycles. At the time, I felt in a deep, dark night of soul, really, really dark place. And then suddenly, for all the birds and nature sound went dull and quiet around me. It was like somebody had put 2 earphones around my head. And this song, that particular song, came loud and clear in my head, as if there was someone singing it to me in my head. And I had, at that point, it was quite a few years ago, I hadn't heard the song before. It sounded familiar. And I went home to look it up, and and looked at the words of it. So it has special meaning.
What a lovely story.
It's given people hope, and it gave me hope at that time, even though I didn't quite know what it was. Yeah.
Isn't Sarah McLachlan, isn't she South African or Australian or?
I know that she's from down under somewhere.
Yeah, she is. Yeah.
Dark haired girl. Yeah. Yeah. But it's a song that I think it comes up obviously at funerals, and it comes up when people have had losses. So it is a little bit of a tearjerker. But I do think that for anybody who is going through a difficult time, if you really, really are feeling stuck and dark, you listen to that song and you just it's like giving yourself permission to hand yourself over to a higher power. Higher power in this case being, these angelic beings, and just allowing grace of them, these angels, to carry you, so that you feel everything's going to be okay. So that's
lovely.
Into it, yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy for that to be on my playlist, indeed.
Oh, nice, thank you.
Okay, so apart from the music thing that I do, of course, you now know, because you have my book and you are going to read it. One of the sort of big passions that I have now, is the telephone ringing, is all to do with your heart. So not only the heart that you have, your physical heart and in terms of your health, but also the heart that you have to give to the world. And so my question here is, what do you do, Moira? And we've talked a little bit about it, but what do you take? What actions do you take? What habits do you have to look after your heart, or what habits are you going to create to look after your physical heart? And you've already mentioned food and some good quality supplementation, which is excellent. And I'd also like to know what you do to your heart in a spiritual and an emotional sense as well, to protect it and also to look after it so that you can do the job that you do.
Well, definitely what I said earlier, which is the new gen superfood supplements that I'm taking, and then getting the deliveries from HelloFresh, the organic foods. But I've also started cutting down on anything, that's very fatty, and making sure fat gets cut out of the diet. So it's a low-fat diet, breads, wheats, anything with chemicals. So I've been very vigilant about that. Emotionally and spiritually, I do tend to delve into my color bottles to put me in a space where I can be more loving and kind to myself first. Because I know if I'm being hard on myself, chances are that if somebody comes into my space, I'm not going to be as gentle with them as I need to be. So I try to remind myself every now and again to, it's a motto that I have that I was taught by my spiritual mentor, Melissa Jolly, that you love it right, you don't fight it right. So if I come up with something, because I know it just creates stress and high blood pressure. So every time something comes up and I start worrying about it, like for example, next week my accountant needs to see us. Our first taxes and accounting systems are being submitted for Canada. We've never done it. We don't know what to expect. We have no idea how it's all going to work out. And I thought to myself, well, I feel stressed about this, and it's 7 days away, and that's not being kind to myself and my energy. So, and of course, it makes the blood pressure go up. So I just decided that will be dealt with on the day we get there. So between now and then, I've got other things that I can, relax and enjoy, and not stress and worry about things that haven't happened yet, and deal with things as they happen in the moment. So I think that's another part of how I take care of myself spiritually, is to try to be more in the now moment, Because if I start worrying about something in the future that hasn't happened yet, it just adds and compounds the stress levels your heart has to deal with.
Mm. I think in my experience, stress is definitely the number one reason for illness and disease, because of the inflammatory response that you get. And, I think there's a bit of a misconception about stress. People think of stress as, as you say, there are obvious ones like I have to go to the accountant, or I'm moving house, or I'm having a divorce, or those big things. But there's also the unperceived stresses of our bodies as well, like even exercising causes stress on the body, or being exposed to toxicity causes stress on the body, or too much sugar or acid foods, or whatever it is. And if I could say one thing to everybody that was listening, is to be more aware, and, as you say, take care of that stress and be in the moment and really identify and be aware, have that more awareness of what are the potential stresses on your body, is going to definitely give you a longer and a happier life. And then if we can add some things in there, which is what functional nutrition does, basically, is we fill the gaps and we buffer the effects of stress, and you do it with your color mirrors as well. So if you put everything together, all we're doing is creating this bubble effectively, so that we can live the life that we want to live, but also be around long enough to be able to leave the legacy that we want to leave. Because like I've made a promise to people and unwell, and so it's really, really key that everybody does that in their lives, I believe.
I agree. Yeah.
So that's brilliant. Thank you very much. So before we go, I really want to give you the opportunity to tell us a little bit more about what's kind of coming up for you in the next month, or maybe over the next 6 months up to Christmas, maybe. I've got a couple of links that I'm going to flash on the screen. So one of them is your website address where people can go to. But just share with us, Moira, if you would, what you're excited about over the next few months. What's happening for you?
Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity. Well, I have just launched my new book, 8 Colors of Prosperity.
Oh, yes, prosperity. Yeah.
The ultimate guide for turning your debt devils into love angels. And it is the book explains the link between the law of attraction and how you use color frequencies to work with the law of attraction to speed up delivery of what you want. And it is also a book that highlights poverty habits and helps you to get rid of those and replace them with prosperity habits. And so there is a Love and Money boot camp, which is based on this book, which is being launched in September 16 and 17 here in Canada. And it's happening in Markham in Ontario, which is it's north of Toronto City. And I'm working with another very well-known lady called Liz Scott, who is a very strong personal and business mentor here in Canada, and she's helping to coordinate this event. So that is what I'm really, really excited about, is to finally be able to take the teachings of the book and to create it in a 2-day program or boot camp where people can come and find out what's actually stopping them from being successful in business and in love. And then from there, it's going to be on organic growth. I don't plan too far ahead. I kind of, as things present themselves, I follow the breadcrumb trail. So I'm excited to see what happens, what the response to the boot camp is going to be, and where that will take me in the next 6 months or a year.
And then in terms of how people, if they're not in Canada, oh, by the way, we're being shouted at because Sarah McLaughlin is Canadian, by the way.
Canadian, that's right. I did remember.
We need to put that right, don't we? Oops. So in terms of how people connect with you, if they're not in Canada and they can't come to your boot camp, you've got a Facebook group, haven't you?
Yes.
Which I'm just putting the link to now.
And on that, and there I would announce if I was doing boot camps in any other countries. I have done them previously in America and in England. And, you know, if anybody would like to host a boot camp from any other country, they could let me know. But there's also mentoring programs that can, you know, that people can attend. if they can't do the boot camp, but they're welcome to contact me and just chat with me. What are the options? What are the possibilities so they can access the teachings and learnings of this book? It's really based on the incredible journey that I've been through, which has been, I want to be of service, I want to make a difference in the world, but I want to be able to pay the rent. And I want to be able to be spiritual and have my material goodies. And how does that happen? How do you find that balance between heaven and earth? And
yes, and I think it's very common that if you are in the sort of businesses that we have, is that you have a mindset that you kind of you shouldn't charge, or if you do charge, you're not charging enough, or a lot of people actually don't want to pay you for this kind of service. They're happy to pay for other kinds of service, but there seems to be a bit of a mindset block, you know, from inside out. And I don't know which way round that is very often, but it is very, very common. So to be able to help people to overcome that in our industry for people is very valuable.
It is. And then at the other side of the coin is the people in the business, the material world, who are very afraid of accessing anything to do with the spiritual world, who are very nervous about, you know, the woo-woos. So this book addresses both. I've had people in the metaphysical world, healers, that read the book and found incredible value, and I do get really beautiful feedback on it. But I've also had businessmen, people in the insurance industry, people who are in real estate, who are, you know, who sell investments, who are using the book as a textbook. So for their clients, so it speaks to both worlds. So I think that this book is the beginning of a recipe that teachers like myself, because there are others like me out there who are trying to teach that bridging between the you know, the heaven and the earth, the spiritual and the material world. And this book hopefully is going to join forces with all the other people and other books and programs out there to start bridging that gap. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because I spoke to Dawn Cox earlier on, and they live in an amazing place called Blissland. They're friends of Chris Ula, and they're doing the same thing as you. They're going into the corporate world, yes. and I think there is just this suddenly there's this kind of little gap that you know, people are being able to go in and open those doors up and just, you know, introduce.
I had a businessman here just yesterday apologize, on Friday. He was here on Friday for a meeting, and he loves finance. He loves creating wealth for people, helping people make sound investments. And he's a young man in his early 30s, but he has this incredible moral need to do it from a basis of that it really serves him, that it's not about him chasing a commission or making money. So he has this dilemma. And I said to him, one of the things that people in the material business world, as well as people in the metaphysical healing world, why we both need to keep in mind, and that to me is the core of why I do what I do, is that the main reason we came to this planet is to remember that we are the creator in physical form, in human form. So we are naturally creative beings. And whether you are creating using a palette of colors to create beautiful art, or whether you are using financial numbers and systems to create financial wealth, it is still an act of creation. We are practicing being a creator, and what can we create with? And if we go into judgment, well, you know, art and paint is okay, but money is not, then you're not actually being spiritual, then you're being in judgment. And you're saying that God creates colors and paints but doesn't create money. Money must be evil, it's created by something else. So it's about overcoming the judgments and going back to the core root of what makes us who we are. We are the creator manifested in physical form. And we are solely here to exercise those muscles, those creative muscles. And it doesn't matter what you create, just create.
And it's allowing that to happen, and listening to learning to listen to yourself. That's the thing that is the skill of things that really I think a lot of us really know in our own hearts what we should do, or what we're meant to be here for, or, you know, it's a bit like people know what they should and shouldn't eat. They, you know, so many people that I meet, they know, for example, that bread's not really good for them. And I say, well, do you eat it then? They go, yeah, we do. That awareness and then taking action from that awareness is really the key to serving, but also serving other people, but also serving yourself, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Brilliant. Okay, well, I've had a fabulous time with you and my light-hearted conversation with you. I hope you've had a
Yes. Great.
good.
I love the format. It's fabulous. You had me think a little bit on my timeline though.
Yeah, well, there's nothing wrong with that at all. Okay, well, thank you so much for logging in all the way from Canada. Please share this, around, and I'm sure that people will really connect with you even more, and really follow you with all the fabulous things that you do. And yeah. I know that we'll meet soon.
Oh, absolutely! Come, we'll get you to the ski slopes.
Yeah, okay, to the ski slopes. Okay, thank you very much. Take care. Have a lovely rest of the day. It's just sort of getting slightly darker here, a little bit dusky here now. So we're going into, I think, a bit more of a rainy and colder week. But I think everybody will be relieved at that because it's been really, really hot here.
Nice. Thank you so much.
Okay, lovely. Love to you, and have a fabulous day.